Hey y'all, welcome to Crystal Twilight Tarot. My name is Crystal. I am a clairvoyant based out of Brooklyn, New York. I have actually been thinking about starting this channel for the past year or so. I have been reading tarot for about 6 or 7 years, off and on, but more seriously in the past couple years or so. I have been thinking about starting this channel, trying to figure out what I really want to do with it. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to put the first video out, let you know a little bit about who I am, why I'm here, and just what you need to know about me and my style of reading and why you should pay attention. You definitely don't have to. There's a lot of choices out there. There's a lot of excellent choices out there. But I definitely do have my own spin with regard to how I do things. And I just want to put my flavor out there, share it with all of you. So who am I? Once again, my name is Crystal, based out of Brooklyn, New York. I've been in Brooklyn for the past year or so. Moved here from Austin, Texas. A beautiful place. Miss it dearly, but I just knew that there was more out there for me. I had spent my whole life in Texas, and I had kind of cultivated this life that was full of the right things to do, the right choices to make. I went to college, got an advanced degree. I have a master's degree in applied philosophy and ethics. And from there, I went into the workforce and I had this really awesome job, a couple of different awesome jobs at startups, living the type of life that I thought I was supposed to be living as, a young adult who's smart and has the whole world ahead of her. But and I also had, lots of friends, family, a really tight-knit group of people that I would share my life with. So on the outside, everything looked pretty perfect, I had everything I needed, but I didn't have everything I want. I didn't have everything that I needed. I was kind of living this life that didn't feel like my own. I started to kind of acknowledge that there was more out there for me when I began reading tarot and kind of started to be very introspective about who it is that I really am and what it is that I really want for my life. And this has definitely been an outlet for me to fully express myself, and even more than that, help other people who feel like they're kind of just floating along in life, not really getting anywhere, not really doing anything dynamic or anything that they're really passionate about. So when it comes to my style of reading tarot and why I'm here and why I'm doing this, it's really to kind of help offer to people exactly what I've been needing in my own life. I do believe we each have this innate ability to intuit everything that we need to know in this life, in our own individual lives, in each of the decisions that we need to make throughout a day. I do believe we all have this innate access to just what is real, what is true. But in the hustle and bustle of the day, and because of societal standards and what they deem appropriate and necessary, we kind of get lost in all of that. I know I did. I definitely got lost in all that. And this section of my life, this period of my life, has really been about shedding all of those false ideas about myself and about the world and about life, and coming into my own, really understanding who it is that I am, what it is that I want, in order to live a life that feels meaningful, that feels true. And so that is exactly my goal when it comes to how I read for other people. So when I do read, I like to take little breaks and ask the person I'm reading for, how they're feeling about certain cards, what they might think that they mean for themselves. And usually a little bit of a story comes out. And I've noticed when that little bit of a story comes out, they'll utter some sort of phrase, depending on their level of comfortability and willingness to kind of be open and honest about their experiences. When they reach that point, when they're kind of settled at that point where they can kind of open up and receive the message, they always utter, a brief few words that sum up one of the cards that have been chosen. And that typically will be the one that I point to and insist that it's something that they need to really pay attention to for themselves. So I know when I used to get tarot readings early on, when I first started to kind of dip my toe in, I guess, and just see what was out there and see if I even believed in any of this stuff, I would hold back and I wouldn't say a lot. And I had this inner wall. And I would kind of hold that up, and it would make it really hard to receive anything beneficial from that reading. I totally understand that now. Before, I thought I was doing a good thing to kind of check the validity of the reader's abilities, see if they were legit or not. And now I understand that by doing that, I was really holding a lot back, and I was prohibiting the messages to come through. I'm not saying you need to lay everything out on the table and just kind of bare your whole soul, but what I am saying is that you do need to be open to receiving the message, and you need to let that happen naturally. So putting up some sort of wall or barrier to check for the validity of the reading or the legitimacy of the reader is really not the best way to go. You're already starting things off on the wrong foot. There needs to be this open channel of back and forth so that the right messages can come through to you. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So that's just a little bit of my opinion when it comes to getting a reading, finding the right reader. Granted, it's kind of like when you go to a therapist, and, I've had a few therapists that I just could not connect with. I could not have that back and forth with, that baseline understanding where it felt like I was really being heard and seen. And it's the same way with your tarot card reader. There has to be that openness, that back and forth, that understanding in order for the right messages to come through. So that kind of leads me to what it is that I even want to do with this channel. There's so many options out there. Like I said, so many great options out there, and everyone kind of has their own spin with regard to what they want to do. For the most part, I've been seeing a lot of folks take zodiac signs and do monthly readings according to zodiac signs, or weekly readings, or like soulmate readings, or money readings. There's different ways that this can happen. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I want to do with this, how I want to do it, if I want to do zodiac signs, if I want to do weekly readings, if I want to do monthly readings. I have decided to kind of just start the project and see how it goes, and not really put any pressure on this, because it's when I put pressure on myself that the real stuff doesn't come out, and things stagnate. So I think what I'll do for today is start with a one card reading, just something to kind of get things moving, get things flowing, give you a little bit of a chance to see how I do things. The way that I read is completely dependent upon how I'm feeling. Yes, of course, I do read the card as it is, the traditional reading, but I am an intuitive reader, so sometimes the messages that I'm getting from the card aren't necessarily that traditional standard understanding of what the card represents. So it really just depends. I go off of how, like, my own personal relationship with that particular card at that particular period in time. My relationship with these cards, with these different cards, have evolved and grown over time. And every now and then I'll pick out different things that maybe I've never seen before. So I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle the cards a bit and see what we come up with today. Now, with whatever card that's chosen today, it'd be a good idea to take that meaning, that understanding, that message, and kind of just meditate on it. Take the meaning of it, and as you go through the many thoughts, feelings, actions of your day, kind of reflect on things that are happening that could potentially relate to this card. Kind of meditate on how this card makes you feel, what it makes you think of, what those thoughts make you feel, and see what wisdom you can draw from the events of the day with regard to this particular card. Sometimes I like to use these cards as pieces for meditation. So every morning, typically, I'll pull a card of the day. Depending on what that card is, I'll think of a few words or phrases that card makes me think of. And as I go throughout my day, I'll have that thought, that card, in the back of my mind. And as I'm, going through my day, as I'm at work, as I'm, having breakfast, or, on my daily commute, typically I'll see or notice something, or I'll have a stray thought that seemingly comes out of nowhere that directly relates to that card. And that's also how my relationship to the cards kind of evolve from day to day, as different things emerge that seem very useful and important to me. I'll hang on to those bits, and I'll think about that card that I chose at the beginning of the day, and it all just starts to make a little bit more sense. My awareness expands, it grows. So that's what I encourage you to do with whatever card is chosen today. The deck that I'm using is the Crystal Visions Tarot deck by Jennifer Galasso. It's a deck that I received as a gift a few years ago. It's a deck that hardly leaves my house. And it's also a deck that I rarely use for readings for anyone else. I typically use them for myself. Occasionally I'll use this deck with friends or family, depending on how I'm feeling. I'm still becoming acclimated to this deck. It's a really beautiful deck. There's some really lovely cards in here. And just the illustrations are so pretty, and I love the colors. I mean, they're kind of like fairy tale-ish, fairy-ish type of style. I really like that. And as a pretty romantic type of human being, it really appeals to me. And I find them really precious. And I think that's why I hardly take them outside of my house, because I'm kind of afraid to lose one. Occasionally that will happen. And then I have to get a new deck. Anyhow, so let's go ahead and choose a card. Card of the day for everyone who's watching. What is important for us to know today? What wisdom can you share with us on this day? What is important for us to know and understand regarding the events and energies of this day? All right, so we have here the Page of Swords, Page of Swords. So swords in general have to do with thought, with mental energy, with words being spoken, whether internally or externally, thought patterns that emerge for you. Whenever I've chosen this card in the past, typically I find myself in a place where I'm asking a lot of questions. There's a youthful energy to any page cards. The page being someone of influence, but someone who has this youthful spirit, kind of I like to think of someone in their teenage years. They're just beginning to get a good grasp and understanding of life and the different relationships that we have within our lives, and that budding kind of understanding, those budding thought processes, and opening to what will soon be adulthood and ownership. So there's a lot of mistakes that are made in this time period as a page. There's a lot of brazenness, rushing forward, a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes are the best mistakes to make because they lead you to a better understanding of the world around you and the people around you and your own understanding of all of that and your own reactions to all of that. So with the Page of Swords, this is a person who has taken a very youthful approach to the events and energies happening in their lives. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of questioning, a lot of kind of newbie type questions. How does that work? What is that? What are you going to do with it? How can I use it? What's important about that thing? A lot of questions, kind of probing and understanding and checking in, and a little bit of brazenness, like I said. Maybe not phrasing a question correctly, or being a little harsh or rude and making a judgment, but not even really fully understanding that you are being harsh or rude, or not even necessarily intending to be harsh or rude. Just having like that newness, and not quite understanding how to phrase the words, how to go about getting the answer in a way that doesn't feel pushy or annoying. Sometimes this card for me has come up on days where I have had a lot of questions about how something works, and I am approaching that line of questioning in a way that's really there's like not a lot of ego behind it. I just really honestly want to understand how that thing works, what I need to do to use it, what I need to do to improve upon the way that I'm using it. Just a really fresh approach at looking at the thing. So, Page of Swords, I encourage you as the day goes on, notice what things that you find yourself curious about. Maybe it's how a particular machine works at your job, the copier. Like, you never use the copier, and you have to use it today for some reason, but you don't really understand. So then you're asking one of your colleagues how it works. This is a kind of a lame example, but it's the first thing I thought of because I've definitely been there before. Or, you're walking past a building that you see every day, and all of a sudden you find yourself curious about how long it's been there, what significance it has with regard to the culture of the neighborhood and the people that live in the building. Just today is a day where you very well may find yourself feeling very curious, outwardly curious, or even inwardly curious about something that you have seen every single day and have just given little thought to until today. So yeah, Page of Swords. Is there anything else I need to say about that? These questions that you have may seem very sudden, and you might be a little bit confused as to why now all of a sudden you're curious about this thing that you've encountered pretty much every single day. Or you might notice a certain characteristic about someone or something that seems really important all of a sudden. And it may not make much sense as to why all of a sudden this thing seems really important. But when you feel the urge to ask the questions, to investigate further, don't hinder it, because there's growth that will come from it. There's growth that can come from it. So don't censor yourself. You may sound or feel a bit silly or kind of just strange about even talking about this thing. But go ahead and allow yourself the indulgence of finding out a little bit more and understanding a little bit more about that person, place, or thing or characteristic that all of a sudden stands out to you. And be playful about it. Allow that playful side of you to come out, to be fascinated by something, to be in awe, to kind of revel in that freshness and newness of getting to know something new and different. And really check in and understand how that feels in your body. Do you feel excited about that thing? Do you feel kind of like an ominous questioning about that thing or person or characteristic, why is it that you're all of a sudden feeling so curious or having all of a sudden these very strong opinions about this thing? Why is it all of a sudden you have this voice, these words to say, this thought process happening? And you may even want to write a little bit about it. You know, just kind of dive deeper. Who knows where that line of questioning could lead you? It could lead you to discovering something new about yourself. It could lead you to discovering a new passion that you didn't realize you had before. It could lead you to a new opportunity that you didn't realize was there before today, before that moment where all of a sudden you felt like you had to know more, had to say something about that thing. So definitely embrace that, because it is a gift. Don't hinder it. Don't feel embarrassed by it. And if you fumble or make mistakes while you're doing it, just do it. And trust that the reason why you are feeling or thinking this way is leading you to a discovery that is just waiting for you to find it. I'm kind of grinning a little bit because I'm looking at this card and I'm thinking about my decision to start this channel, and this is totally makes sense for me right now. You know, I do have a lot to say. I have a lot to share, and I'm very new at this medium, and I'm feeling a bit silly about it, but at the same time, I know there's more to be uncovered. And I know it's okay to make mistakes along the way. So, yeah, Page of Swords. Write it down. Think about it. What's it mean to you? Well, yeah, I think that's it for today. I am currently taking new clients on. If you would like a reading from me, I can be reached at crystaltwilighttarot@gmail.com. Crystal spelled CRYSTAL, twilighttarot@gmail.com. Just hit me up there. I will give you my rates. I do full hour readings and I do half hour readings for the time being. I'm still kind of experimenting with that, trying to see what feels good to me and what it is exactly that I want to do and what types of services that I want to offer. But at this moment, I offer 1 hour and half hour readings. So want to know more about that, want to know about rates, just hit me up at crystaltwilighttarot.com. Other than that, thank you so much for sticking with me through this. Hopefully you weren't like totally bored to death, or, hopefully I wasn't rambling too much. Not sure when the next video will come out, but there will be more. So stay tuned, and thank you for sticking with me for this first video. We'll talk again soon. Bye.